joining us now to talk about this. What a night it was. Senior political analyst and senior editor for The Atlantic, Ron Brownstein. Ron, great to see you. Gaetz says because all the concessions he made, McCarthy will essentially have to govern, act as Speaker in a straitjacket. Gaetz is given to hyperbole, and I'm being generous about that at times, but he's not altogether off, is he, in that assessment?
No. By the way, who knew we'd have Friday Night Fights, the Capitol Hill edition, right? I mean,
right.
that was really something. Look, I think what comes out of this is we are going to test a long held argument of conservatives. Literally, for as long as you and I have been covering politics, there have been conservatives who have argued that if Republicans gave voters kind of the full, undiluted, true stuff, that they would win more elections. And now, after a midterm in which Republicans were clearly hurt in swing districts and swing states by the view, particularly among independents, that they were extremists, the right has achieved the power in the House to basically test that proposition. I mean, Kevin McCarthy did what John Boehner and Paul Ryan, his two predecessors, would not do. He put his own desire to be Speaker at such a level that he was willing to make concessions that they would not make. And so the result is going to be enormous influence and visibility for the most militant members of the caucus in defining Republicans over the next 2 years. And whatever that means for the Republicans in more centrist and swing districts, we're going to have to see.
And Ron, we've been focused, all of us, on the infighting inside the Republican Party over the last week, but this has real world implications for everybody. Could we have a scenario, Ron, that emerges as the debt ceiling vote approaches, where a handful of hard right lawmakers have the ability to grind everything to a halt and potentially put the nation into default? Leading to
yes.
things like leading to things like stock market plummeting and so on.
Absolutely. I mean, look. I mean, what you've got is a situation where across the board, McCarthy has given the most militant conservative members of the caucus more leverage than they've ever had to shape the agenda. I mean, clearly, he specifically conceded on the debt ceiling not to have a clean up or down vote, but to demand concessions as the price of raising the debt ceiling, even though it's merely paying for debt we've already incurred. That, by definition, is not going to be acceptable to Senate Democrats and to President Biden. The idea of tying raising the debt ceiling, for example, to cutting Social Security or Medicare or even discretionary spending.
Right. And there are even some, I suppose, Republicans who won't want to go along with that sort of thing. And we know politics is messy sometimes. Let's not sugarcoat how nasty things got. As we were just talking and replaying that interview I had with Congressman Burchett earlier this afternoon. At one point, Congressman Mike Rogers of Alabama had to be restrained after he made a move toward Matt Gaetz. It looked like he was lunging at him or was going to stick a finger in his face. We're not really sure. I know tempers are bound to get short. You've watched this kind of stuff play out for years, Ron. Did that surprise you?
Yes. Short answer, yes. I mean, this is what you read about more in the 19th century when physical altercations on the floor of the House, most famously the caning of Charles Sumner before the Civil War, were more common. But Jim, to me, there were two defining images from last night, and they represent the two poles of risk that Republicans face in the choices that McCarthy made to get this job. One is that first image of Rogers lunging at Gaetz, and that's just a question of coming across as dysfunctional, not ready for prime time, not really capable of running the institution. I think an even bigger risk is the second defining image of the night, which is when Marjorie Taylor Greene, who was excluded from committees while Democrats ran the place on citing her previous remarks about violence and conspiracy theories and anti-Islamic and so forth comments. She raced down the aisle to take a photo, a selfie with Kevin McCarthy, which may have been his first act as Speaker. Adam Kinzinger, former
and she held up that phone. And Ron, remember, she held up her phone to, I believe it was Matt Rosendale of Montana. And on the phone, the photographers, our great print photographers that we have here in Washington, captured that image. And it said DT, there it is right there on the phone. And she's trying to send the message to these holdouts that, Trump is on the line.
But the fact that when it finally broke for McCarthy, she was literally the first one with him taking this photo, immediately posting it on social media, is an indication of what the next 2 years are going to be like. These folks are going to be increasingly the face of the Republican Party. People like Marjorie Taylor Greene, Matt Gaetz, they're going to be at the center of the imagery in many of these investigations that McCarthy agreed to, including one on the weaponization, exact word, of the FBI and Justice Department. Greene says she wants to investigate whether the Justice Department is being unfair to the January 6th insurrectionists. And now, I mean, it is going to greatly facilitate the ability of Democrats to basically say, this is the face of this majority. That's what McCarthy has put in motion. And as I said, there are conservatives who say, fine, you know, this is going to turn out more conservatives and we are going to win. But the fact is that Republicans lost independents in this midterm, the first time since at least 1982 that the party out of power lost independent voters. And one of the reasons they lost them in a midterm was because almost 60% of them said the party was too extreme. In that photo of Greene and McCarthy, he is now, you can see how he is enabling more visibility for the very kind of Republicans who have ceded that impression. So it's just an enormous gamble for the party that could make it tougher for them to hold the House in 2024.
Well, and Democrats, I'm sure, aren't happy that they lost the House to the Republicans, and Kevin McCarthy is the new Speaker. But having the Republicans in charge and Kevin McCarthy as Speaker may be the best thing that's happened to the Democrats politically heading into 2024. Ron Brownstein, thanks very much for your time. We appreciate it.